Good evening, or good midday, or good morning for whoever is watching wherever. I think we have literally people around the globe, so wherever you are, have a good whatever it is, time-wise right now. Wednesday market on a Wednesday, something's not right. I mean, it is like 3 hours late, but yeah. I was like, I have to do it because I'm going on vacation. The day after tomorrow, whatever, not sure, but I think it's the day after tomorrow. So I was like, I cannot just skip out, and yeah, here we are. Profile picture upside down. I'm not really shorting right now, so no. The only thing that I have going on is the hedge, but that's it. And I also, like, whenever I turn the profile picture, it's just a fucking headache, you know? Like, too many people harass me over it. So I'm like, I only do it when I think the market is horrendously wrong, and I'm like, whatever, I don't care what people think. But now I'm just like, I don't want to deal with it. I have better things to do in my life. Iggy is in your DMs. You made it now. I don't think she tweeted that herself, to be honest. I don't think she tweets much of whatever the fuck she's doing. Like, all the crypto stuff, I don't think is much of herself, but I don't know. No idea. Don't really care anyway. Don just in time for the Omega nuke. I mean, low time frames is fucking hilarious to watch. Like, it's so slow. But yeah, we'll talk about it. Are we finally accepting the bull market is over? I mean, I did call the cycle over at 65. Not entirely sure if that's accurate though. Just straight up, could just be a pullback and not the cycle end. But we'll see. We'll see pretty soon. I think this range is gonna be done, over and done with very soon. But yeah, we'll talk about everything. Like, people are asking me where I want to buy and all that stuff. We'll talk about it. Before we start the show, big shout out to Woo. They're the sponsor, and they've been really nice to work with. So yeah, if you want to check them out, their links are in the description. It's been a pleasure working with them, honestly. Like, most crypto projects give you very little input, and we have all the input. So, like, if you guys have criticism with the exchange, whatever, just let me know. And if I think it's reasonable, I will let them know, and they usually change things relatively quickly. Show this Saturday, Sunday chart? Yeah, we can do that before I forget. Look at that. It's beautiful. So, Saturday here, Sunday here, and then a week of dumping. Saturday here, Sunday here, week of dumping. Saturday here, Sunday here. It started already on Sunday, the dumping. And now Saturday and Sunday, and it's dumping. Good thing is that we're heading into an American long weekend, so there's more time for this to go up. But I'm not entirely sure if that's going to help or not. The sound is always low. I mean, I have it maxed, and like 99% of people are saying it's great. And then it's like, for some reason, like, there's always a few people that don't. I have a professional microphone and everything, so I don't know. I don't know how that works. Am I the only one who has no clue what an Iggy is? No, I just, on Twitter, I got like a previous rapper or something. I don't know what she does. Anyway, like a celeb shit talking me. And yeah, she's apparently famous. I have no idea. I don't know her. Anyway, chat's going too fast, so I cannot respond to everything. Don't inform in and meet my girlfriend. We're bidding 52k. I think 52k is a really good level to buy, but it is a little bit risky, I think. But yeah. Don't you use any indicators for your analysis? No, I don't. GCR said we're still in bull market, if I'm not mistaken. What is your opinion? I mean, you said bid quality tokens, and like those are down like 80%. Not everyone, like I don't care what other people think about the market. Like I really couldn't care less. Which is funny because I make a show and I tell you like, hey, you really shouldn't care about what other people say about the market, which kind of defeats the purpose of the show. But I generally just really don't care what other people think. Just 0%. Like it does not impact my trading or my thinking at all. I'm more interested in the Iggy story now. Will someone explain, please? I mean, just go on my Twitter. Basically, I tweeted about her coin because it went down 85%. Like, look, she has a coin, and I was like, and everyone on Twitter was like, this is the celeb coin. That is great, and it's down like 83%. And I tweeted like, "Hey, this is the poster child for celeb coins, and it's down 83%. Like, maybe the people that were like promoting celeb coins were kind of wrong on this, and people lost their mind." And like I said, that like previous rapper, I don't know if she still is, tweeted like, "Hey, this is like DonAlt is a bottom indicator, whatever." Pretty sure she didn't write that herself. Like it's a crypto native, but. Yeah. Seriously, you're only looking at charts and you know how the market will go? Yes, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know where the market will go. I just think about where it could go. But yeah. TLDR, don't trigger meme holders. Yeah, it has been a story, yeah. But yeah, high time frame Bitcoin, we are getting back into monthly support, which is not great. I already didn't like the first test. I didn't like the second test. We tested it 3 times, and then now this is the 4th time. Not the biggest fan, but it's still monthly support, right? So we have the monthly at support, which I think gives the bulls a little bit more credibility. And we have the weekly at support, right? So you would argue like, hey, the two major time frames I had support, so like why are people bearish? The problem is both of those time frames has like those supports have been tested too many times, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4 candles here, all tested it, not great. And then on the weekly time frame, you have 1 test, 2 tests, 3 tests, 4 tests, 5 tests, 6 tests, almost the 7th, 8, and now 9, right? So like that is not what you want to see. At some point you'd expect it to break, right? Like we've seen these kind of areas before. Here at 6K, for example, where we tested 6K once and then twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, whatever, 20 times, and then it broke down, right? So the more often it tests that support, the less likely it is to hold. But it's still support, right? So if you're shorting into that support at 6K, if you didn't have like a very, very wide stop loss or like invalidation, you got stopped out like 5 times. And then you probably didn't short the last time, right? So that's the problem with these kind of trades. Like if you're shorting to support, it's a little bit dangerous. The better short was actually the bearish retest this week, right? And I mentioned it on Twitter. We had a really nice close, like almost a really nice close last week, but we didn't really manage to close above this box, which I think is the most like the best kind of pivot that we have right now. Below is bearish, above is bullish. Given this range high has been tested too many times, so I don't think that's gonna hold. If we get back there again, this range low has been tested too many times. I don't trust it, but I do trust this pivot, right? And yeah, we had a bearish retest there, kind of shitty one. Like it closed very close to the boundaries of that resistance, but still was a bearish retest, and that's kind of what led to this sell-off of sorts. So yeah, we have the monthly and the weekly at support, but those supports are shit and the resistances are holding right now. I'm kind of expecting this to fail, to be quite honest. Like I've been saying I don't like 60K support, so I kind of think this is gonna fail. And the invalidation is above 63, 64K, right? Like the moment we start closing above this, I think it's just gonna go back to 80, like at first all-time high and then 80, 90, 100K. And the kind of target that I think is reasonable if this support fails, first is 52K. That is quite close. So if you kind of like, if you're bidding 52K, you're expecting this to be a false breakout that immediately reverses, right? Which is possible, but I think it's quite unlikely given the length of this range. But it is possible, especially if the traditional market stays strong. If you don't think that's gonna happen, I think you kind of have to bid lower. And I think that would be like 44K. But I think generally, like, you're probably gonna get, like, if it plays out bullishly, like the bearish case, as in we're breaking down, not the bullish case, but like just generally the bullish case, if we break down, would be going down here, bouncing, making a higher low, and then start walking back up. The bearish case, if we're breaking down, would be that we go down here, bounce a little, and then immediately kind of rug pull fully towards 40K. I think that would be full capitulation, and if you're not buying that, you'd be stupid, right? Like 44, I think that'd be insane to get. I'm not entirely sure if we're gonna get that. I don't necessarily believe in it, but if we get it, that's an insane buy. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. Either of these areas, this would be insane to get 40K. 50K would be, I think, good for a bounce and then to see further. And then obviously if it doesn't break down, there's also a trade to be had. I just think it's higher. So above 64K is that trade. So either gonna take a trade here if I'm expecting strength, here if I get extremely lucky, or above here if the market actually starts moving up. It's pretty straightforward. We're actually in a really nice position for like future trades, just because this is very clear cut, right? Like either you're gonna get this support or you're gonna get that support, or you're gonna show strength. And in all of those cases, you're gonna make money. The only thing that you have to kind of avoid is getting chopped up. So that's kind of how I look at it. I think it's pretty nice. Low time frame wise, as in on the daily and lower. I actually redrew this like a couple of days ago. I didn't post an update because yeah, I didn't really think about it to make it more accurate. More recent is usually better, especially when you have an area be tested like this, right? So I had this area as resistance / support. We failed it. We retested a bunch of times, went down, and then we had an up move. And I looked at this and I was like, when we started kind of selling off here on that day, I was like, this seems like the bears are actually controlling this. And this area is just not as accurate as the more recent one, which is this one. And we actually closed at the boundary of it and then just sold off. But this is, I mean, you don't, like, I still like the prior zone. You can pick whichever you want. I think both are accurate. One got you a false breakout, which is at the end more bearish, right? Like this one, false breakout into dump, that's bad. This one is just like a sell-off from resistance. Obviously also not much better, but whichever you prefer, it doesn't really matter. So it's an if-then scenario. I mean, it's always an if-then scenario if you're actually trading, in my opinion anyway. 44K impossible? I don't think so. I think it's actually quite possible. No possibility of new all-time high for Bitcoin in Q3, Q4 going into elections. I don't think so, but like, I mean, obviously there's always possibility. I don't think it's going to, but there is a possibility. And the best indication of that would be closing above the weekly resistance. And then I'm on board, right? This could go quite quick if it closes above resistance, but so far, no sign of that. Everything is an if-then scenario, yeah. I mean, yeah. I think your mic is kind of low. I'm losing my mind. Dude, I'm gonna hire like a professional sound engineer and have this entire fucking room sound engineered to perfection, just so I don't like ever get a comment like this again. Especially since it's fine for most people. Like even for me, when I watch back, it's completely fine. You're being trolled. Like I actually I listened back to it and it is less loud than other videos. It's just, I think some people just have really shitty headphones / mobile phones or whatever. And then like if only one side works, I think then it might be too quiet, but yeah. I had to raise my volume. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Like you have to, it's a little bit less loud than others, but it's still loud enough. Anyway, that's kind of Bitcoin. It's pretty straightforward. Low time frame. Obviously, this daily really doesn't look that good. And the even lower time frames look horrendous. Like this is just a really bad chart. I actually don't know where this comes from. Let me check. It's the monthly, okay. Yeah, I mean, this is just fucking sad. It looks bad. Where's Cred? I mean, Cred's at home, I think. I don't know. I don't know. Like Cred and I do the show on Fridays. Like Wednesdays, it's just me. Is Cred in your basement? No, he's not. He was in my basement though for my wedding. I have a big basement. So yeah, this whole, like I have an extra apartment in the basement with kitchen, shower, everything, and that we don't use. So that's where he stayed. So he was in my basement for a little bit during the wedding. So yeah, anyway, not looking great. I think just generally look through, everything's kind of dumping, mostly because of Bitcoin, and just this low grind is just not nice. Could ETH ETF inflow bail out the market? I've always said that I think the ETH ETF inflow is only really good for ETH, not for the rest of the market. Thanks for the update on the market, Mr. Fuck. No worries, my pleasure. So yeah, that's Bitcoin. On the ETH front, it just doesn't look that great either. ETH BTCs, whatever, still holding support barely. ETH USD is shit, back at support now. So if you're like a die-hard ETH bull and you think the Bitcoin range holds, this is the best place to buy it, especially given that we're gonna get the ETF news and sentiment is quite bad, right? Like there's a few things in your corner on the ETH trade. I cannot read it. Like I legit, like I was very right on ETH, on this down move being the midway trade and everything. But right now I have zero read on it. I wanted to see, like I want to see some strength or that's it. Like if this doesn't show strength, I just don't want to buy it. And so far I haven't seen much. Is that giving me anxiety? I mean, it's all good. I mean, technically we're only down 3%. Could go much worse, huh? But yeah, it is the millionth test of range low. So at some point, if it's not this time, if it does, like if it tests it next time, I think that's just gonna go. Do you trade solely off the charts? Have you ever used volume, other indicators in your trading? I used to try everything, but I find them all useless. I just look at the chart, I look at sentiment, and that's it. Don, you once mentioned a long time ago that if we got a monthly failed breakout, that you would be giga bearish, maybe 28K, but you still think 48K is okay. I mean, that's the thing. Like if it pulls back significantly and this is the cycle top, right? Like let's say this nukes like just straight up giga nukes, and then I think this would like there's a world in which it just does this and then just fucking goes down. But that doesn't really matter, right? Like that second leg, everything from like I only care about like buying this support, and then I might sell 52k, I might sell like 60k, I might sell 80k. But I really only care about getting to buy cheap. So if this fully nukes, I'll buy this and I'll ride it till here. And if I see strength, I'll ride it higher. And if I don't, I'll sell it and then buy another time. Like just generally, I don't really care. I think if the S&P doesn't do well, there's a world in which it goes lower than 40k. Like if the S&P has like a really bad year or two, I think there's a chance that this just continues bleeding. But I don't really care, and it doesn't really matter because I'm just looking at supports, resistances, and I'm trading this thing. Overall, I think there's gonna be a new all-time high eventually. Whether that will be after this thing does this and then starts walking back up, or whether that will be from this range low that we're trading in right now, or whether that will be from any of the other supports. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like people are too focused on all of that shit. I think you buy supports when people capitulate, and then you see how the market behaves. That's kind of how I look at it. Just take its support from, like, whenever something nukes, take its support to support, and then just see how it goes. And like I said, if it holds, it holds. So yeah, Sol, ETH's kind of meh, Sol's kind of meh. I think like that basically. Solana closed that resistance too, but it did manage to close above 135, which is good. If it starts losing that, I think the whole Solana apocalypse thing is going to happen. Right now, it's like, there's a good thing that it closed above 135. It's a bad thing that this resistance held. For now, I still think this doesn't actually look that good, but it's been trading stronger than a lot of other things. So there might be other things that are worth shorting more than Solana, even though today it's been it's been underperforming massively. People were actively clowning me again in my comments for my Sol ETH takes. It didn't really move, right? So still exactly where it was weeks ago. And I think if the market stays risk off, this is gonna suffer. If the market goes up, Solana's obviously gonna outperform. What is your assessment on how low sentiment is right now? I mean, sentiment is really interesting right now because I think people are actually bearish. So you'd be like, oh, sentiment is really, really bad, right? But I think no one's sold. Like I actually just straight up think people are bearish sitting in their coins, which is the worst combination, right? Like if you have people that are bullish sitting in their coins, like that's okay. Like that's like, they're gonna have some conviction, right? But if you have bearish people sitting in their coins, if the market goes down, like that's a recipe for disaster. Because then they're like, oh, fuck no, I don't want to sell now. It's down like 20, 30, 40, 50%. And then it goes down and it keeps getting worse and people are like in more and more pain. And then like at some point they just sell at whatever price. So I think that's kind of sentiment right now. Basically everyone, like a lot of people are bearish. I mean, there's also a lot of people bullish to be fair, but a lot of people are bearish. But I don't think people sold. Like it just feels like people are literally just holding on for dear life, expecting the market to turn around, which to be honest, I mean, could easily happen. But it's a dangerous strategy, right? Like when you actually just like, when you think the market is going to go down, but you're sitting in your coins. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like if you're not a trader, this is what you should do. Like if you're just an investor, like just fucking close your eyes and hope, pray. Just hope that you didn't invest in some garbage, right? But as like a trader, that's not the way to go. So yeah, I think people are like the sentiment analysis. People are gonna be like, oh, everyone's bearish, but I think like everyone's bear tweeting, but actually still sitting in everything that they have. Previously, you said you'd buy 52K. What changed your mind? Sentiment? I mean, I'm down to buy 52K, depending on how we get there. I just think like if you get 44K, this is a guaranteed buy, and if 52K is just like depending on how we get there. I think it's almost always a buy too. So 52, and then if it bounces and bounces shittily, sell that bounce. If it bounces strongly, I mean, hold on to it. Otherwise, like if it bounces and it bounces shittily and it goes to 44, I mean, that's the one that I think should have at least some conviction. Like I'd be shocked. Like I'd be very, very shocked if it just did this and then just like whatever, like this stupid talk. I think like this is the most likely outcome if this plays out bearish. Any resources for reading, testing things besides Cred content? I think the best way to learn is just doing it yourself. That's how I learned anyway. It might be bad advice, but I was autistic enough to just sit in front of the chart 12 hours a day for years and years, just looking at the thing, like at the chart and at the trading platforms and how things traded, and just a bunch of trading myself, making every mistake that you can make. And I still make mistakes. It's not like I'm perfect, right? Always looks like on Twitter like people are perfect, but it's not how it is. I still make a bunch of beginner mistakes even from time to time. It's just less and less common, and I get less and less hung up on it. But yeah, just doing it a bunch. And I think Cred's content is basically a good way to look at it and then to be able to think in those kind of areas. As in like, then you start noticing like what you could have, like what you could look at and all that kind of stuff. But I think just doing this thing is more valuable than any reading you can do. Are you Australian or British? Neither. I am German. How would you determine if it bounces strong or shitty? I mean, it's just a price action at that point. Like, look. Okay. We'll go look. So we broke down here, right? And I closed my shorts like when it broke down, because I was like, this is capitulation. I can tell, right? Just from the way people are speaking and from the way the market has been trading, right? It was very illiquid here. You can see how tiny those candles are. Like there was just, this was the illiquid part of the trading, and the market got pushed down. And I was like, okay, this is capitulation short term. Let me see how this market reacts, right? And then you got this bounce, and there was this first resistance here, and it got stuffed by the first resistance, stuffed again. And then this rally kind of fell flat too, like it didn't even manage to kind of reclaim any of this area. Took a long time to get there, and then started trading lower, right? And started being illiquid again, and started kind of being a shitty market. And then you can tell that that's gonna be a shitty bounce that is probably gonna retrace a lot of it. So that would be one where you'd be bearish, or at least like taking profits. Whereas if you get like a stronger bounce, right? Here, for example, so you have a breakdown here, right? You have a breakdown. So this is the range low, it's the range high, excuse all the color, whatever. I'll remove it for now for a second. So you have those like range boundaries-ish. You break down, you immediately reclaim it. You don't retest the range low. You start walking up. At that point, you know this is a strong bounce, right? Like there's no ambiguity about it. And you can see, like, look, like the market was really shitty illiquid here. It nuked, and then it started walking up and immediately reclaimed that area, right? And now compare that to what we had here. So illiquid market, kind of shitty. It nuked. It walks up. It immediately gets stuffed. It comes back up here, but cannot hold the area. So like that's an easy, like you just look at this thing and you're like, oh, this is actually dangerous. At least that, like for me, I just look at this thing and I'm like, okay. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just kind of how my brain works. And it's all very, I mean, it depends on how, like, it depends on you and like how you think about the market. And I mean, obviously you can be wrong on these things, but that's just kind of how I look at it. It's as much of a gut feeling as well as anything else. I'm getting a little bit of a bounce on the very, very low time frames. But yeah, hope that helps. Duck has the cycle topped. I mean, that's what I claimed like weeks ago, and like altcoins are down like 80%. So maybe this cycle topped, and it's just altcoins basically going to zero, because they basically have already, right? But yeah, it's trading really fucking weirdly right now. Like very, very slow. Like just generally look at this thing. Like it's very, very illiquid, slow garbage market. And when it's doing that while it's bleeding through supports. It's so funny, last year everyone on CT was glazing you and was watching your streams for the paid groups, and after you sold, where you still predicted market right, everyone is shit talking you. Yeah, I mean, people just don't like it when you're not saying the same thing as them, / when the market really heats up, people have their own opinions, which is fine, right? It's just wish people behaved a little bit more sane. But yeah, that's that. In regards to like everything altcoin wise and stuff, like just doesn't look that good. Like even Pepe, and that's one of the stronger ones, and one of the ones that I actually like, meme wise. Like that's not great, right? This is basically the area needs to hold the prior range, and it tested it 3 times now. So that's also not that great in my opinion. If that starts falling back in, I would be worried for this as well. And with obviously super bearish, I guess just not good. Talked about on Casual Friday, talked about shorting. Actually got like some angry comments where I was like, this is technically a short, but I'm just not willing to take it. That was quite a nice setup. Bearish retest into failure. That looks quite bad. If you want to be bullish, you can hope that this is a higher low, but I think just generally more like now more so than ever, you want to have this area reclaimed, right? So like a proper, not like this, like these kind of closes, right, where people are like, oh, it closed above, like that is dog shit. That is like a 1% move above. That's for altcoins, that's nothing, right? So like if you want to be bullish now, I think like now it's quite easy, actually just to close above these, and then you can be bullish with. But otherwise, I would not want to hold this thing. Biggest lesson learned this cycle: never fade the duck. I mean, I like I said in the beginning, you should really not give too much of a fuck of what other people say. Like you can listen to me and my reasoning, and then you can think about whether it makes sense or not to you. And then that can help your trading, but you really shouldn't just blindly accept what I'm saying, because like it's like I'm as retarded as all of you guys. Like it's not like I have like the special insight into all of this. I don't have any insider groups. I don't have anything of the sort. It's just literally me looking at the market, and I can be wrong, and I have been wrong. So it should be you kind of trying to understand how I'm thinking about the market, and then deciding whether that makes sense to you. That's how I started out. Like I was consuming some media from traders, and I was like, this is just like, this makes no sense. And some stuff made sense, and I was like, oh, I'll take this that makes sense, and I'll throw the stuff that doesn't make sense, and then I'll just go from there. And that got me where I am now. The best thing I learned from you, Don, is even the space gets so disgusting and cringe is the best time to sell. Is when the space gets so disgusting and cringe is the best time to sell. Yeah, it's generally been like, there's a few top indicators that are really reliable. the best one is when the blockchains start breaking from usage. We had that this cycle with Solana at like 200. Solana just stopped working properly. We had that last cycle with ETH. You had to pay like 100 to 500 just to transact. We had that in 2017-18 with Bitcoin and ETH, both unusable. Like that's like one of the most reliable, at least short-term top indicators. And then two, celebs coming back in the space and grifting. Like that's been like a very, very good top indicator just generally. Like whenever you see these like shitty celebrities launching their coins, been pretty decent, at least short term, right? You don't have to call cycle top just because this happened, but just short term, it's a sign that the market is overheating, right? And then that's another one. And then when people just go completely nutty crazy when someone has differing opinion about the market, and that's the one that we got this cycle quite aggressively, right? When I said, hey, I think the memes are not doing so well, people went absolutely batshit insane. And that for me was a sign that the entire market was kind of overheated, because it's the only thing that people traded, right? Like I don't need to look for overheating, like an overheating market in the XRP market, like because there's 10 people trading it. So you want to kind of look at the markets that are actually actively traded, and that is going to count for the rest of the market, right? So when the poster child of the cycle is overheated, everything's is kind of in for shitty time. And that's kind of like, we got all three of those this cycle. But we also have an ETF now, like a Bitcoin ETF that can bail us out, right? So it doesn't have to mean that the cycle's over, whatever. But short term, it's been a great indicator, right? Like Bitcoin's trading quite low. These altcoins went down 80%, like 50 to 80%, like with the one that we're talking about right now. It's down 60% right now, was down 70% at the lows. That would have been like quite nice to avoid. And then obviously, yeah, Batuhan says when good news don't affect the market, it's another good one. This one, I wouldn't say cycle top or cycle bottom, but just generally for bottoms and tops, when you have good news and price moves lower, and when you have bad news and price moves higher, that is a big, strong indication of where the market actually wants to go, right? Like if you get FUD and the market moves higher, excellent kind of buying opportunity. You want to buy those. And yeah, so for example, Solana, right? That was my short. That I rode from like 170 to all the way down to 122, and then it started bouncing. And basically the reason why I was so nimble of getting out of this thing is because we made a low here, and then Bitcoin just very much sold off, and Solana made a higher low, right? So look at this. Solana, BTC bottomed at 8 on June 24, like Monday 24. And now you look at Bitcoin, and that was like, look, Solana bottomed here, Bitcoin rugged, and Solana didn't. And that's also like some sort of news event, right? And that led to the strongest bounce we've seen in a while, right? So that was a good indication. That's why I was so fast to get out of my short, because I was like, hey, there's someone big stepping into this thing, not willing to let this go lower. So I'll get out of the way, let them do their thing, and then if I want to reshort later. But this is also like a good indication. Like when you see these, Solana just completely sending it, absorbing what could have been a range breakdown, you don't want to fade that too much. That's kind of how I look at it anyway. Would you bid big size at 45K, even if it's weak, you're pretty much guaranteed a bounce? No, depending on how we get there and all that kind of stuff. Big size is relative, and I don't really trade big size anymore. I'm a family man now, first and foremost. So it's not like I'm throwing my net worth around anymore. Like I have other responsibilities, but I would that would be an area where I would be willing to take some risk. Yeah. Your videos and tweets helps me compare my own ideas. Sometimes it aligns, sometimes it doesn't, but it helps give me perspective and improve in real time. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how it should be, I think. So. Do you usually just bid a level out, right? Like 52K, or do you try to catch a wick below? It depends. I fucking hate this answer because it's useless, right? But it really depends. So like, would I try to like bid here, or would I try to catch the wick below the support if it gets there, right? And the answer is depends. If this bleeds down like this, fuck no, am I gonna bid this? I'm gonna try to get the wick. If it's nukes, straight line, I mean, there's a good chance that I'm gonna bid 51, 52K, because then you get the capitulation out of the way. So it depends. But I know that that's a shitty answer, but it's just how, like, it always depends, and there's no clear-cut answer for all of this stuff. There's a lot of discretion in the way I trade. And I think, like, straight up, I think this is not for everyone, right? Like, I genuinely think trading is not for everyone. And I think, like, this whole culture of telling people that they should trade, whatever, I think is not the best. And not everyone is going to make it trading. And the only way that, like, you have a chance to is if you find your own style. And then, like, for example, mine is very discretionary, right? But other people are really good with strict rules and kind of like looking at statistics and looking at all the data that they can get, and doing that way. And then they should. And then if they go discretionary, there's a good chance they get their ass handed to them. So you kind of have to know like what aligns with who you are and what you're good at. And I mean, you also have to kind of respect that, like, if you kind of suck at this, that you shouldn't be doing it, right? Like at some point, and I think this is just generally like, I mean, sucks to hear, right? But I don't think everyone can be a trader, and I don't think it's for everyone. And at some point, I mean, cutting losses also makes sense. So it all depends. But yeah. Any hope for Doge or nah? I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of memes right now, and Doge's just kind of been shit. It's approaching the area where I said I would buy at 0.1, but I don't know. Like, I straight up don't know. It seems kind of shit. Like, look at Doge BTC. Like, that's shit. Look at that. I did close at the edge, but you have a run, bleed out, run, bleed out, run. And that's just not great. But I don't know. I could see Doge do well. I mean, the meme is a meme. Like, it's still the biggest, most well-known crypto meme, but I don't know. I look at this and I'm not necessarily sold. Let's say we go to 44K and consolidate there for some time. Do you think strong altcoins will go lower in the meanwhile, also consolidate, or will go lower while BTC stalls? I think generally, while Bitcoin does poorly, like today, like Pepe down 10%, WIF down 20. Jesus Christ, that's nuking. Holy fuck. I mean, I'm not I'm not surprised, but Jesus fuck, that's a lot. Basically retraced the entire pump. What happens when you get a bearish retest. But I think when Bitcoin goes down, you're gonna get carnage on altcoins, and once Bitcoin finds, same as with Solana here, right? So Solana found the bottom before Bitcoin did, and I think it's gonna be the same. So basically, let's say Bitcoin goes to the support, bounces and like kind of makes this low, this new low, and you get like strength on some of the altcoins. That's probably gonna be their bottom, and then they're gonna outperform again. It's kind of how it usually goes. Do you think we'll keep chopping down until people think the bull market is over and we're entering the bear market part of the 4-year cycle and that will mark the bottom? I honestly, I just don't fucking know. We'll see. I just take it support to support, resistance to resistance, and that's it. And right now we're the 10th time back at that support. It's still support, so like I'm not telling you guys to short the support. I'm just saying like I don't trust it enough to be willing to buy. And then if this goes, I mean, there is no other support than 52K. And then once we're at 52K, we can talk about whether we're going to go back towards the old range or whether this is just going to be a small bounce or whether we're going to straight up nuke through it. But at this point in time, I just don't know. So yeah, hope that helps. I'm going to call it a night. It's quite late here. But yeah, we'll see how this plays out in the next few days. I think generally, I don't expect this range to last much longer than a week or two from here. Could break any point to the downside, or if it starts like walking up slowly, I think there's a good chance that like if it starts walking up slowly, that it does something like this. So either way, we're gonna have the resolution of this range relatively soon. I think it's more likely to go down, but I'm open to both sides here. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, much love. Big shout out to Wu again for sponsoring the show. Go check them out, and we'll see each other or hear each other on Friday.